In this episode, I'm in conversation with Anu Prestonia, who is considered an innovator in the beauty industry, the founder of Khamit Kinks, one of the pioneering natural hair salons, and Anu Essentials, a line of natural hair and body care products. Anu uses botanicals as a means of nourishing, healing, and beautifying. For me, she's an example of a woman walking with the wolves. She is my go to inspiration for awakening every sense with the divine sweetness to inspire myself and possibly others along the way. She joins me for a conversation on identifying the keys to living and sustaining a joyful, sweet, and loving life.
What attracted you to African spiritual tradition and how has it kept your attention over these years?
Well, when I was practicing yoga, I would go to the ashrams, I would take classes, and everybody was trying to be Indian. And I
Really
loved white people, the few black people who were there. Everybody was trying to be an Indian, and while I love the tradition and I feel a connection to Indian culture and everything, I knew that I was not Indian, and so
right.
something was just pulling at me, to seek, something different. And then when I came across, as Sarah said, I felt like I had found my home because it was, it had incorporated these Hindu tradition of yoga and meditation along with African culture.
Okay.
And what I liked most about the type of teachings that we had, a lot of African traditions deal with sacrificing animals, to spill the blood or whatever, and that did not appeal to me. I was a vegetarian at the time,
right.
And then, as Sarah said, their focus was on sacrificing the lower part of your spirit through ritual,
right,
and through trying to integrate within yourself the energy of the deity, to be that embodiment of the deity when you needed to be that embodiment.
Oh, okay.
So let's say, for instance, Heteru. She's all about love and sweetness and harmony and relationships.
Right.
That is her domain.
Right.
So let's say that you're having some kind of problem with your spouse.
Right.
And you're trying to, you want to work that out. So you say, I'm going to do a ritual or offering to this deity. It's not just about, setting up a shrine and getting the yellow flowers and the honey and all of that. It's about when they push that button that you're able to dig deep and bring up the energy of the deity, of being sweet, understanding, harmonious, not escalating the disharmony.
So,
and it's not about suppressing how you feel. It's about transforming how you normally respond in those situations.
Okay, so say you're pulling on that energy of the deity to be your best self, what's needed for that moment in that situation. Are you given elders or coaches or, I don't use the word mentors for many reasons, but are you given those guides to work with you to teach you how to do that?
Well, yeah, the teachings are there. We used to have guidance counselors or counselors.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The priesthood, they would be the counselors for those who are not yet in the priesthood, not yet making those kind of sacrifices.
Right.
So, and also working with the deities, doing their mantra, wearing their oils, just immersing yourself in the energy of the deity through those things, because smells have memory, subconscious memory.
Right.
So in that instance, you don't wear those oils just to be wearing them any other time, because it doesn't work the same way as when you wear them only when you're doing that ritual.
Right.
Then it brings up that energy. The smell is like a trigger for your mind, for your subconscious, for your spirit.
Right. That's right. So I know you're speaking a lot about deity, right? And in our community, a lot of us come from Christian backgrounds as people in the African diaspora. And when we hear the word deity, a lot of us, it also triggers, not just like the sense, but it triggers these other things that we've been taught that's somehow something you should stay away from when you hear the word deity. How were you able to really immerse yourself in that spiritual reality using words like deity and practices like that and feeling comfortable with it?
Well, when I was a young girl, I was a devout Catholic.
Oh, okay. It was easy then.
And they have all these, saints.
I was too.
Yeah, and it's a correlation between
That's
the
right.
same thing. And but we didn't know how to work with the saints. We didn't know how to bring them into into our world and have them really help us, and so I don't know. It wasn't a problem for me at all. I just took to it. I don't know why.
And your family, they embraced what you embraced?
Yeah, my family, they were like, well, that's what she does.
Did they get to participate with you ever in these rituals or some of your, different activities?
Not really.
Okay, so it was more of an individualistic thing. Okay. I understand. That tends to be the case, but over time, I think I see that families come along because they say, wow, it's working so well for you. Let me start to dip my toes into it. Okay. So, and the other part that I wanted to just follow up on is what kept your attention? Or did it?
It has kept my attention. It has also influenced how I live my life. I still, another part of our teachings was using, oracular systems. And so we don't just go on how we feel about something because our feelings can be off. So we use oracles for important decisions in our life. Should I marry this person? Should I move out of town? Should I, things like that, to get insight to not yes or no, but what could be some of the fallout or some of the greatness that'll come from making this decision.
Well, that's very ancient. That's like when you study ancient Comedian ways of life and tradition, many of the queens, like who they were going to procreate with, and they had several options, and it's like who was going to bring forth the strongest seed, or like you said, who do they get married to? And I think that we've really gotten away from that as a community, and it's just wonderful to hear that that's something that is a part not just of your life that you did, but that you're holding on to.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm there with you, sister. I need some guidance sometimes, right? So with all of that, right? So you have the guidance, you had the guidance counselors or elders, you have the oracles, you have the rituals, you have connection to pull the energy of the deity or the representation of God. That's what sometimes I like to call the deity, because our minds, I believe, are not as developed to understand the vastness of God. So our ancestors broke God down in ways that our little minds can understand.
Exactly.
Right? So with all of that, how do you bring forth the joy? Because you're like the epitome, the essence, the full understanding of joy to me. You keep finding joy. No matter what happens, you always are just so hopeful, so happy, so inspirational. How do you find that with all of those things? What do you do first to get that?
Well, let me
give us a recipe.
I'm not always as joyous as I can be. No. I have my moments, Life comes at you. And as I recently said to a friend, I learned through studying Buddhism that in life, no matter what your station is, you could be rich, beautiful, living on top of the world, come from a, fantastic family. No matter what, you're going to have some suffering in your life, because we can't have happiness without suffering, just like we can't have up without down, and, black without white, and all the opposites. They're, the same coin, flip sides of the same coin. So what do you do when suffering comes into your life? You can allow it to take you out, or you can learn how to control it. And so I think that I'm innately, kind of like a happy up person. I'm an Aries, born in the spring.
Okay.
I love to be happy. When I was younger, when I would wake up like a jack in the box, like, it's the next day. What's going on? Let's do it.
I love it.
Yeah. As I've gotten older, I'm less jack in the box. I wake up, I'm like, let's do this meditation so we can handle this day.
But then I know you get up and you create perfumes and scents, and you go around the world and find these different resins, and you create pearls and crystals. So I think you're still getting up with that energy, my sister. It's just in a different way.
Yeah. Well, I've had my, my ups and my downs, and having access or knowledge about spiritual culture and how we can use mantra and mindfulness and talk to our ancestors and ask for their blessings and their help. I use all those things to help me through, this life journey.
So tell me about a time that in your life, or one of the most memorable times, that all of those tools helped pull you through.
Oh, wow.
Where you could say, it works.
Yes. Well, about a few years ago, I had a severe heartbreak. And the kind of heartbreak that, you're in bed and you don't want to get out of bed. You know, and you have to overcome this, but it's where you are with it. You just you need help.
Right.
Right. And so I started practicing mindfulness meditation, which is a practice of just controlling the mind.
That's right.
Every time the thought comes, that thought that brings you down, you counter it. Through your breath and through mantra or affirmations. It's a simple thing. I'm breathing in. I know that I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. I know that I'm breathing out. So that kind of thing keeps you in the present moment. Because according to the Buddhist tradition, we only have the present moment. There's no future. There's no present. There's no future. There's no past. Right. The present moment is all that we have. So when you're in the present moment, you can better handle what's going on in life. Once you start going to what it was and what you thought was going to be for the future, that's when you get off your center.
Right.
So it was a constant, daily, hourly, I'm controlling these thoughts. I'm controlling these thoughts. And just sticking with that, sticking with my mantra, following the oracles, because so many times I wanted to do something. And one of the things that the oracles says again and again through so many different readings is that we don't believe in the power of non-action. We're from America. We think we have to put our force on things to change things. And there's a lot of power in non-action and just sitting in your stew.
That's right. That's right.
Sitting in where you are, being in acceptance of that you're in this place and handling it, not wishing that it was something else, not crying over that it's not what you thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
Just, being right there and navigating it.
And that really allows you to look at yourself, not just sit in it, right? Like you were sharing, which is really important, but also to begin to look without judgment. And then you're able to actually sometimes accept and surrender to that what the creator, universe, ancestors, and deities want you to really grow forward with.
Right.
And that's hard because I've been there, right? And all I could use was traditional practice, right? Being still and just allowing everything to speak to your higher self. And what other, like I know for me, it was the meditation, understanding, of course, using the Buddhist tradition, that suffering was a part of what you need to get to the next level. We all come here to suffer. I remember telling one young sister that. She was like, what? And she was like, wait, this can't be it. We have to have joy. And I do believe in the joy, but I think through that understanding the impermanence of life, and that's even suffering in itself. Depend until you elevate your mind, right? Or you become more enlightened, right? That it's how we see the world,
right?
And I know I had to use things like the scents and the incense and the resins, that because that also changed how I was feeling, or gave me inspiration when other people couldn't give me inspiration, or candles or prayer. I mean, did you use any of those things as well through that period, or was it just being still?
No, I used everything I could use. Even though I'm no longer in the community, I still have a spiritual counselor who helps me, who helps interpret the oracles for me, you know, when I'm like, I don't know what they're saying here. And in my case, Anu, they're saying the same thing over and over again in a different way. When you gonna get it?
Okay, awesome.
So I used that. I used being at home. I just stayed at home as much as I could. I stayed in bed as much as I could, and it was like going through an initiation.
That's right.
And you come out on the other side, and you can't believe, like, how much you cause your own suffering.
Yeah, it's a part of that destiny, right?
Yeah, because of the thoughts that you keep and the beliefs that you have, and sometimes people want to hold on to their pain, because it feels good in some way, but you can give it up, and you can go beyond your pain and get to a place of acceptance and forgiveness of yourself, of the other person.
That's a big piece.
Yeah.
And that pain becomes, and that all of those mantras become our identity. And it's hard to separate that from who we really are inside. It's like a piece of clothing we've put on. But you said something that's really connected to African tradition for me, that you, an initiation, you stayed inside.
Right.
That anytime you're initiated, you can't go outside. You stay inside because you're like a baby. You're being reborn, and you can't have those outside influences, and you must incubate. And so you just innately, naturally knew to do that.
Yeah.
To stay inside and rebirth yourself.
I really did. And about 3 months into this whole process, opportunity came up for me to go to the UAE. And I didn't want to go because I was like, I don't want to take this energy nowhere. Let me just stay here because I'm going through this. And I went to the oracles, and the oracles was like, go.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so once I got there, something shifted. It helped shift me out of that spot that I had been in, and I was able to start, coming back into my own self.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you on that note about that hard time and what you learned in a different way. So what do you believe, what do you believe that African tradition has to teach us about, African spiritual tradition has to teach us about marriage and relationships? Like, is there a text or some kind of teaching that tells us how we should walk that road?
That's a very challenging road. Marriage and relationships. I feel like the world has changed so much in terms of that. In African tradition and in a lot of traditions, there's more than one wife, or there's more than one way to be in marriage. Even in...
I thought you were going to say more than one husband. I'm sorry. I was rooting for you to go there. No,
well, where I am in my life now, I don't want no husbands, no marriage. I'm trying to get married.
That's why I asked you the question.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into marriage with myself, and really seeing how I've always looked outside for this happiness, and it's right within me. But you get to a certain stage in your life, and these things become more prevalent, more relevant. They make themselves known. I think as the as the libido goes down, other things rise up,
Okay, like
Yeah.
you're like the almost like the Kundalini snake,
Yeah.
right? So the energy, like we were talking about Geb, it starts. So that's true for some women, right?
Yes.
Some women, I hear it rises the other way. Like
Right.
in the early years, they're just that libido is kind of dormant because they're putting energy into other places, and then as they get older, it picks up. It's not as frequent, but I
Right.
do hear that.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. I'm sure for you. Like I read this once in a book on the Maasai, that the women, when they get to a certain age, they're not allowed to become elders if they're still having sex with the younger boys. The boys who are the men who are their children's age.
I know I shouldn't go here, but I lived with Maasai for a year when I was young. I don't know what they were doing to me when I was sleeping, but I think they done put something on me. And I got that. I'm just kidding.
No, she's not. Ride it out, sister. Ride it out.
Okay, I know. We're talking about African spirituality.
And that's a part of it because we're in these bodies.
Right. So you were talking, you're absolutely right. And to kind of bring it back in a little bit, you were to roll it back in. You were talking about times have really changed. And I asked this question because it's to me, it's complex, right? So we get so much messaging that, we need to be in a relationship for women, right? And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be in a relationship. I think it's really important to learn. I believe in coexistence. I believe in collectivity, partnership, and I think there's a lot. That's why we're here, right? It's an interdependence. It's learning. I think it's easier, believe it or not. Maybe not for you, what you were saying, but for most of us, to be alone. For me now, I've reached a point where it's easy for me to run. So the work is really figuring out how to stay connected, right, and work through that difficult stuff. When I was younger, for me, it was to stay and be connected. After a lot of hardship, it's like, see ya. And so I got to be still and employ all that African spiritual, those tools and techniques and centering. But I know my younger sisters, they're like, see ya. They're really like not having it. And I don't know, what do you say to that? Okay, for example, I remember, just to kind of illustrate it a bit, I was having a hard day one time, and I think I was pregnant. I came in with shopping bags, and I came in after my partner, and I was like, ugh. And then my partner came in, oh, good night, and I was sitting down, and my mom turned to me, and she said, now I love her, and I know she meant well. She's like, you're not going to make the man no food. Now I was like 9 months pregnant. We both just came home from work. And it's like that was the messaging that kept being passed down. You're not doing enough. You're not doing enough, right? So I'm saying, what do we say to our young sisters? And not to make this about a relationship thing, but it also comes from indigenous and African spiritual traditions, right? I don't know that those messages or that coaching is coming with the same evolvement. Maybe it is in certain genres or certain areas, but I want to hear what you have to say on being immersed and just kind of wrapped in indigenous and African spirituality. What do you say to the younger sisters balancing all of that?
I really think we're living in a different time. They call it Age of Aquarius, but there's another name that I can't think of it. It comes from the Hindu tradition about people not being in this. This is not a time for that coupling. And I think that technology has added to that. And that, women are just more autonomous. They don't need to be measured by whether or not they have a partner. Women are, living their best lives, and I don't know how that's going to affect, the culture in terms of children, in terms families. Of growing the village and all of that. Maybe they'll come to it later, but, the mother is sick.
Talk about that a little bit. What do you mean?
The Great Mother, the Earth, is sick, and there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And these young people, it's gonna fall on. It has fallen on their shoulders. It's their charge to help save this planet. So it's more about it's it's about more than your personal life and having a partner. And just like with jobs, people can't go to jobs anymore and think they're going to be there for 40 years and get a watch and a, all of that. I think it's similar in relationships, too, that you may not be with somebody for, forever, and you may be, but I think in general, that whole paradigm is just changing.
Right. There's no one model anymore.
Right, exactly.
There are options.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the mother, the great mother is sick, right? Indigenous and African spirituality hold a lot of tools to connect and make her better, right? What's one thing that you think we could all do to a small, attainable step to connect? A lot of people may be listening that are seekers. They don't know how to connect. It's something a little foreign. They may not have a spiritual community to be with. But what can they do on their own? What one little piece can they do to connect with Mother Earth?
Besides the thing that everybody knows about, recycling and getting LED lights and those kind of things that use energy.
That's very practical.
Right.
Thank you.
And getting maybe to moving towards electric cars or hybrids. Those things matter too.
I love you. I did not think you were going to go there. But
getting out of your car, turning off the car, and getting out of your car and being on your phone in the house, not in the car while it's running. Emitting fossil fuels.
That's clear.
Yeah. Besides those kind of things, something as simple as praying for the planet, and giving thanks because a tsunami or earthquake or some kind of big flood hasn't come to your neighborhood yet, or somebody that you love, don't think it's not going to happen. And we're all going to be depending on one another to get through this. Is just so severe. It's more severe than we realize. I mean, it's February, Kwayera, and today was 55 degrees in New York.
I know.
55 degrees in New York. So that's so off balance from where it should be, which causes illness and disease. Because now the ticks are not dying. Now the mosquitoes are getting stronger. They're not dying. These things are supposed to die in the winter. A whole new crop comes up in this, summer, spring. But now they're just getting stronger. Diseases are getting worse and spreading, much faster and killing people. All this is a part of the planet being ill.
So what do you think about people praying, but literally going to... Literally. Please, let's not go there because that's another show in and of itself, another talk. But literally going to the ocean or a river or the mountain or a tree, or I know in Kikongo culture, the elders tell the young people to go to a tree. Like sometimes people want gossip. They say, go to a tree and tell that tree something you got to get out of your body. The tree can handle it. Or even pray and or go to the ocean and talk to the ocean. What do you think about that? 'Cause that's the kind of first step, right? Into understanding indigenous and African spirituality.
I think that's wonderful. I think that when I say pray to, I don't necessarily mean you get on your knees and pray kind of thing. Just even having awareness about the planet and our power to influence what happens here. Just being conscious and being mindful about this is a living, breathing thing that we depend on. There's no planet B, as they say.
So we live in Brooklyn. People are crazy stressed. I'm between Jamaica and Brooklyn, and when I come back here, I have to put on my roller skates. Black women that I find are especially stressed because they're going around the clock, right? And being super women, or trying to be. How do we remind our sisters to always remember to be intentional about their joy?
Well, for myself, I have a daily practice, and I think every woman should have a daily practice where she connects with self. And I use tools to help me in those spaces.
Okay.
I use sacred resins to clear my space. I also make spiritual spritzers that have intention behind them. There's one for Het Heru, like let's say you need some harmony, you're having problems with people at work or in your family. You can spritz
You
that.
go in before everybody gets to work.
You can just spritz it on yourself. Or you can
okay.
spritz it very indiscreetly. But a daily practice of meditation, of being centered, or prayer, or however you do that, that is paramount. And then you have these tools, like I had mentioned before. Our senses, the sense of smell is one of the most neglected senses of everything. We're constantly using our eyes to look, on social media. We're constantly being bombarded with images all day long. But our sense of smell, if we had to survive on that now, we'd be, to get our food or forage, we'd really be in trouble.
Weakening,
it's
right?
so weakened, yes. And so I love sharing with people resins and sacred resins and also sensual resins and things from nature. Like I make perfumes, and the base of them come from from nature, flowers, roots, mosses, ancient smells from ancient trees and earth that people haven't, but when they smell it, there's something triggers in their brain. It takes them back. And a lot of these, there are different energies. You have your grounding sense. You have your sense that inspire. A grounding scent would be something like oak moss, which is really ancient, because moss takes forever to grow. Or to uplift yourself, you might use something like lavender. I have a lavender that I use that is wild harvested, and it grows in the mountains. It doesn't smell like your regular lavender.
So do you use that for oil? Or?
I use it in my perfumes. I use it in my body oils. It's in different things. It's in the spritzers. It just depends on what kind of scent I'm making, if I'm making a grounding scent or an uplifting scent. Another thing that I feel that every woman has to have is a pack.
All right, now. Teach.
She has to have a group of women who support her, who is her foundation. A lone wolf is a vulnerable wolf. And we're like wolves. Wolves are pack animals. They take care of one another. They have a bad reputation, but I tell every woman, you should have women who run with the wolves in your arsenal for when life gets hard.
That's right.
And you have to have a sisterhood, whether it's a sorority, your friends at work, your friends from your childhood. You should have a group of women that you could call on at any time of the day or night, and they will be there for you because you've nurtured those relationships, and you all are looking out for each other.
Do you think we need secret societies anymore the way we used to have for women? I call them sacred societies.
Yeah.
Where it's closed and you just don't get in, but it's like almost an initiation to get in, and it's locked for life.
Yeah, I do think that. I believe that. I practice that. I have that.
Right.
That's one of the things that make me more than I am.
Absolutely.
It's because I have this legion of women who walk with me, and a legion of ancestors too. So, but in terms of your joy, you have to have a daily practice. You have to have your sisterhood, and then you have to have the things that inspire you. And for instance, perfume means to smoke. You're smoking the air. So you have your sages and your frankincense and your myrrh and your copal. I have a copal right now that the person who I'm buying it from, she harvests it with her uncle on some ancient land in Mexico. It is amazing. The first time I burnt it, it's nothing like dried cacao. This is fresh cacao, still sticky. It made me feel like I had just done breathing exercises. And if you know anything about breathing exercises, they're a way to get high.
That's right.
They're a way to connect to, other realms. And so, yeah.
Well, when you're doing those other realm things, you want one of those guidance counselors with you, right? One of those
no, you can go on your own.
No, we want you to come back, though. So we want you to be trained, right?
Right.
You're an expert, so, especially also pulling in the Hatha Yoga and finding ways to regenerate and restore. And so women out there and our young sisters or all sisters that are so stressed, I think you're giving so many different recommendations, suggestions, and just so much advice on how to create that sustained feeling and reality of joy in our lives. I have a quick question, though, for you.
Wait, before you go there, so I don't forget this. Another thing that I think that we have to have is parameters. Boundaries.
Right.
Like, especially living in a place like New York, you could be invited out every night of the week, and you have to know when to say no. I need time for myself. I need to take a bath because I need some time to wind down, to be with myself, to take care of myself, to honor myself.
Absolutely.
I've been talking with some of my sister friends about how we take care of our vulva at this time in our lives. A lot of women are not having sex, but that does not mean you don't take care of that part of your body.
That's right.
And doing so, for me, getting back to that has made me feel like I'm really. It's like a sacred practice.
That's right.
And that I'm taking better care of myself. I'm loving on myself. You should treat yourself the way you want to be treated. If you had a man, how you want him to treat you is how you should treat yourself. Buy yourself flowers, buy yourself gifts, take a bath for you and slather on your lotions and your oils and your perfume and dance in the mirror and, smile at yourself. Get the hell off of social media and be with you.
So that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, where there's this perception that women do all of those things, or some of us are taught to do those things for other people. To get like that peacock attention and to feel self-worth and to feel a sense of I'm wanted, right? But there's this other place of power when you do it and you literally really do it for yourself and you feel that. And other people might get the residual of that, but you do that, and the joy that creates is what I hear you talking about, what I love and which I love to put on your oils. I was putting it on my granddaughter. She was like, massage me some more with that oak. At 1 year old, she's starting to get those memories and connections to those scents. And I think that's a part of what we have disconnected from. If we start with that with our little people, they grow up with a practice, men and women alike, right, of connecting to those scents and triggering those pieces of joy, those neurons in our head.
Exactly.
I have 3 sentences I'd like you to finish.
Okay.
Sister Anu. And that's how I'd like to close our time together tonight. Cool?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, I am the spirit of
love.
Awesome. I love this part of our time
because
together.
To me, love is God,
That's right.
or the divine. People who say they love Jesus, they love, then you have to be love and share love and with everybody.
To be a woman is to
be a creator, create new worlds, create new environments, create new relationships, create new people, bring them through you.
I love it. I like that one. That's very creative. My dream or wish for the world is
to save the Great Mother.
Ashe.
Yeah, and we're going to do that by having peace in ourselves, because when we love ourselves enough, we'll know that we have to love this planet and save it from the direction it's going in.
Ashe. Thank you so much, Sister Anu,
Thank you so much,
spending this
Sister
time
Kwayera.
with me tonight. Oh.
It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ashe. Madukwe.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with my sister Anu. Allowing ourselves to feel the joy of life is not always easy. Moving in and out of relationships, changing jobs, trying to earn enough money to secure all that we need and possibly even desire can be a never-ending roller coaster that doesn't seem to elicit sustained joy. We often question, with all the pain and suffering in the world, is it okay for me to strive to be happy and joyful? Can I work for justice and balance and still be happy and joyful in those moments? Joy is actually derived from awakening and inspiring all of our senses. Our sense of smell, our sense of touch, taste, sight, sound, and feeling, even intuition. And hear horrible things, smell stench aromas, feel pain or even horror. However, it's when we train ourselves to transform our realities that we awaken to the hidden beauty of intentional and inspirational scents, sounds, visions, and sights, and finally begin the process of living in bliss. Until next time, keep cultivating the life you seek. Be sure to listen and subscribe to Cultivating with Kwayera on all podcast platforms.